What if all our dreams of the future aren't prophecies, but symptoms of the same sickness? A fever dream, passed down from one generation to the next. On these faded postcards, in old newspaper clippings, in the naive frames of black and white cinema, the future always soars. It's as light as silk, a world of clockwork perfection. People sip wine casually among the clouds, entrust their haircuts to robots, and shield their cities from the weather under vast glass domes. Each century dreams up its own paradise, only to build it from the spare parts of its own hell. Steam engines, atomic energy, the first computers. Every tool of the age became a key to a utopia whose door was never meant to be unlocked. But beneath the glossy veneer of these naive fantasies, under the layers of century-old optimism, lies a map not of what we wanted, but of what we desperately feared. And every line on it, every forgotten route, leads to the same place. Here. Try to imagine, for a moment, what the world will be like in 10 years. Not much different? How about in 50 or even 100 years from where we stand today? In this world to come, what will our cities look like? How will you get to work, to school, to university? And what kind of new technologies will be at our disposal? What will the planet itself look like? And will we be any happier than before? This particular question, of course, is hardly new. Predictions and prophecies about the future are as old as time itself. But what were some of the past predictions about the era we live in now, the early 21st century? A century sifted through the filters of the internet, algorithms, and data? Let's see if they manage to hit the mark. So, let's start by traveling 120 years into the past. In the 1900s, the invention of the first airplane unlocked colossal potential in transportation and ignited the public's imagination. In Germany, a chocolate company called Hildebrands released a series of commemorative postcards depicting life in the year 2000. They envisioned a world that would take to the skies. People would soar through the heavens in their own personal airships and gliders. The same series of postcards speculated that residential blocks would be moved around on giant, steam-powered trains, or that entire cities would be enclosed in glass domes for protection against the rain. They even imagined summer holidays spent at the North Pole. Sadly, that particular prediction might just one day come true. Take a look at these French engravings. They also depict life in the year 2000, but they were made around 1910. And again, it was a future for aviators, who were apparently expected to replace automobiles by the year 2000. In this image, a man in a glider grabs a glass of wine for the road, or perhaps for the skies. It's sort of like a modern drive-through, and this man is getting a haircut from his mechanical barber. I'd use the term robot, of course, but that word wouldn't even be coined until 1920, a decade later. In the classroom, this ingenious contraption gobbles up books, with the words then piped directly into the students' ears. An early version of the audiobook, perhaps? And while fashion seems to remain unchanged, these whimsical fantasies of the early 20th century show a huge optimism for the future. It reminds me of the steampunk genre, a vision of the future with an advanced aesthetic, but stuck with Victorian-era technology like steam power and industrial machinery, along with goggles and top hats. Moving on to the 1920s, we encounter another vision of the future. Fritz Lang's 1927 masterpiece, Metropolis, provides some magnificent source material. In this film, cities have become gigantic, with mega skyscrapers, sprawling highways, and beautiful robots, all wrapped in the Art Deco aesthetic of the Jazz Age. This was no doubt influenced by contemporary New York City, which was undergoing a rapid vertical boom in the 20s. Just look at how the city changed from the 1910s to the 1930s. It's also in the 1920s that we see the first flying cars. This 1920s drawing by early science fiction writer Hugo Gernsback showcases the first wheeled helicar, a levitating vehicle that was projected to hit the market in 1973. And now, let's take a realistic look at the road ahead and what tomorrow's motorist may expect in the years to come. Speed, safety, and comfort will be the keynotes of the turnpikes of tomorrow. A multicolored highway system may permit the driver to reach his destination by following the proper colored lane. The increased speed of tomorrow's cars will demand that highway signs be bigger and simpler to read, so that the motorist can anticipate their maneuvers well in advance. If visibility is poor, our windshield becomes a radar screen showing us the outlines of objects ahead, or the fog may be cleared by dispersal units along the highway. Other predictions of the future include one 1950s article that also paints a picture of the year 2000. It predicts that the future will be an age of convenience and luxury. This video phone will allow us to buy goods from a screen and have them delivered without ever leaving home. On the other hand, it also predicts that all our food will be made from some kind of flavored sawdust, which can then be recycled into clothing. Baffling, I know. What's most interesting is the role that atomic power plays in the 1950s future. After the atomic bombings in Japan, the world woke up to the immense potential of nuclear energy. The same article suggests that atomic energy will provide 100% of the world's power, and by the year 2000, streetlights would be replaced by microsuns, suspended 200 feet in the air and powered by uranium. In reality, nuclear power accounts for only about 10% of the world's energy, and there are no microsuns on the horizon. As we get to the 60s and 70s, the era of the moon landing and, later, Star Wars, visions of the future changed accordingly. For my money, this is perfectly encapsulated in the 1962 Hanna-Barbera cartoon, The Jetsons, which follows the daily life of a typical nuclear family in the far-flung future of 2062. Despite the wondrous technology, everything feels very 1960s. Their hometown of Orbit City is designed in the Googie architectural style, an early futuristic style that was extremely popular at the time. Even their outfits have a certain retro-futuristic look. By the late 60s, as the space race reached its apex with the Apollo moon landing, many predicted that humanity would soon reach Mars within the next 50 years. And as the 70s rolled on, the dream of colonizing space lived on. This NASA video imagines that by the year 2000, humans would have begun to colonize space, having opened a permanent settlement on Mars. Take a look. This is Taurus, a concept which has evolved from the work of these teams of scientists and engineers. They believed that a huge space colony could be built before the year 2000. From dairy farms to manufacturing, the concept of living and working in space is a possibility with existing technologies. This new space home, located 250,000 miles from Earth, would even have a very distant address. In the 80s and 90s, as personal computers and home technology were just taking off, our fantasies of the future shifted once again. In the 1989 time travel film Back to the Future Part 2, Doc and Marty visit the Earth of 2015. It featured hoverboards, fingerprint payment systems, and an automatic dog walker. A darker vision, however, comes from 1984's The Terminator, which predicts a future where a rogue tech giant, Skynet, takes over the world. It's just one of many predictions about the dangers of future technology. And finally, with the dawn of the 1990s, video games offered a deeper digital immersion than ever before. And the arrival of the World Wide Web and its growing popularity opened up the possibility of life inside a virtual reality, and hence the boom in VR headsets at the time, including Nintendo's ill-fated Virtual Boy. It's only now, with headsets like the Oculus Rift and PlayStation VR, that we are finally beginning to catch up to those dreams of the 1990s. Looking back at each decade's vision of the future, we get a very mixed bag. The year 2000 looks completely different in the 1910s, the 1950s, and the 1970s. And yes, some predictions came true, like the development of the driverless car or shopping at the click of a button. But many are a far cry from reality. Let's return to the question at the start of this story. What will our future actually be like? In his book Homo Deus, author Yuval Noah Harari expects that humanity will begin its quest for immortality, with humans able to sustain life for over 150 years. By the same token, projects could be launched to develop cybernetic enhancements for humans, giving them improved strength and intelligence. This could genuinely be a reality by the end of the century. It's believed that by 2050, almost half of the Amazon rainforest will be cut down. Wildfires could triple in regions like California and in parts of Australia. And by 2056, global temperatures could rise by 3 degrees Celsius. And if that's all too depressing for you, don't worry. By 2100, the cost of space travel may drop enough for people to visit, and perhaps even colonize, the planet Mars. The thing about the future, however, is that no one really knows what's going to happen. All we can do is look at the current trends and then make an educated guess. But if there's one thing we've learned, it's that every era paints a future in its own image, taking the hot new tech of the day and cranking it up to 11. The 1910s envisioned a future where the brand new aeroplane was the star of the show. The 1950s dreamt of a world powered by the atom, complete with cars that drove themselves. And the 60s and 70s, no doubt fueled by the space race, had their eyes fixed on the stars. My best bet? Expect the unexpected. After all, who on earth saw 2020 coming? The folks in 2120 will almost certainly look back on our grand predictions just as we see the ones from 1910. Quaint, hopelessly out of touch, and perhaps even laughably naive. At least, that's my forecast.